Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie and today I'm sharing the top 10 brands that sold the fastest and made me the most profit in 2025. Some of these items are items I've only found once. Some of them are items that I had to source on ThredUp, or I got in a ThredUp box, or I got lucky and was able to find them at the bins. Quick shout out to an honorable mention. These ASIC running shoes I actually found at the bins in Gary, Indiana. I paid roughly $1.50 for these and they sold for $60. So I almost made a profit of $50 in just 18 days from these shoes. They missed the list mainly because they took a little longer than all the other ones on my list, but I wanted to mention this one because this was the first time that I literally picked this brand up, and I think they probably could have sold faster if they were a better size. Sometimes if the sizes are a little too big, they take a little longer, and if they're too small, they also take a long time. So it's just about finding the right size, which is like in the middle, and these were a women's 11, I believe, and those ones can take a little bit longer, especially like running shoes. But I will definitely pick these up again if I find them out in the wild. I do find this brand every so often, but the condition usually is terrible, so I always leave them behind. But these ones were really good at the bins, and I'll link that video above if you are interested. It was actually when I was able to go to the bins all by myself for a very short amount of time. So I'll go ahead and link that one above, and I'll also link it in the box below. Okay, starting off with our number 10, it's this Coach purse that was actually given to me by my wonderful grandma Minnie, so thank you. It sold the same day I listed it for $50, so my profit was $40, which is great. And when my grandma gives me these items, she doesn't expect any money back in return, so I do appreciate that. I don't find Coach all that often, and I don't always pick it up when I do find it because sometimes it can be a fake or the condition isn't great. I'm not a Coach expert, so I'm very selective with what I find, but this one I knew was authentic because it came from my grandma and it was in very, very nice condition. So I decided to sell it, and it took me a little while before listing this because I personally do not like listing purses. So it actually took me a while, but every time I do this with an item that I procrastinate on listing, it always sells so fast. So you need a little sign to list those items that you are procrastinating or putting off. Go ahead and do it because they probably will sell really fast, like this item. All right, moving on to number 9 are these Tory Burch sandals that actually sold the same day. And I do remember finding these. These were also the same day that I found those ASIC shoes at the bins in Gary, Indiana. And I paid roughly $1.50 for them, and they sold for $49, making my profit $35, which is great for one day. People really love their big logos, or especially with Tory Burch sandals, they always have that big round logo on the front, so people know what they are wearing. And these ones were even a little warped and they still sold. If these were in better condition, I could have gotten like up to $70 to $80 for them, but since they were warped, I decided to list them low. And honestly, I probably could have gotten a little bit more for them, but I'm also really happy with a quick sale and someone got them for a great price. So definitely be on the lookout for Tory Burch big logo sandals. All right, moving on to number 8 is this Lauren Moshi Disney collab tank. And I found this at the bins in Romeoville. So I paid roughly $2 for this item, and it sold for $30, making my profit $22. And I don't find Lauren Moshi all that often, and I actually learned about this brand from McThrifties. I think that's her name. I learned about this brand a long time ago, and usually Disney collabs sell pretty fast, and I believe this was the second time that I found this brand. So it also sold the same day I listed it, and I will definitely pick this brand up anytime that I see it. She's known for her graphic tees, and since this was also a Disney collab, I knew that there was potential profit, and I was not wrong. All right, moving on to number 7. This was another first time find for me, and I really hope that I can find it again in the future because this sold the same day I listed it, and I only paid $3 for this. And it's this Frank and Eileen button-down shirt, and it sold for $55, so my profit was $44. And it sold over on eBay. I know that this brand always sells. It has a very high sell-through rate, and it's been on my BOLO list for a long time, and I was really excited when I saw this hanging on the rack. I was internally screaming so loud when I found this because it's a first time find, and I knew it was gonna sell, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful button-down shirt. I would have personally kept it, but your girl needs some money, so I decided to sell it, and it sold very, very fast. I found this actually at my local thrift store. Sometimes I get very lucky and sometimes I do not. Well, most of the time I do not, but I was very, very excited to find this brand for the first time, and I hope it's not my last time. Right, moving on to number 6 are these Ariat boots that my grandma actually gave me. Another grandma mini item. Thank you so much, Grandma Mini. These sold for $63 over on eBay, making my profit $54, and they only took a day to sell. I will say that their boots or their shoes sell a lot faster than their clothing because I'm currently sitting on some Ariat jeans. Their boots definitely sell faster, especially their fat baby boots if they are in very, very good condition. So definitely be on the lookout for Ariat. Do not leave that behind. And they're very expensive, brand new. So people are definitely on the hunt for a good deal. So if you find them, I highly recommend picking them up. All right, moving on to number 5 on my list. It's a Birkenstock brand, Papilio, not sure if I'm saying that right, but I found these wedged booties at the bins in Gary, Indiana, and they were new with tags, and I'm so happy I was able to find the matching boot because, you know, if you know, when you're at the bins, sometimes you can't find the match to the shoe, which is very sad because it's happened to me before. But I paid $1.50 for these at the bins in Gary, Indiana, and they sold for $90, making my profit $70 in just 3 days. I was very blown away at how much these sold for because I've sold Birkenstock before, and you know, I never got $90 for them. I know Birkenstock has a few different little diffusion lines. They all still sell pretty well, personally, in my experience. This was just a new one that I've never heard of. So definitely be on the lookout and don't sleep on Birkenstock. Moving on to number 4 on my list, and we're gonna step out of clothing for a second. This Javelin cast iron skillet that I actually found at my local thrift store. Now, when I grabbed it, I was gonna get it for myself, but I just happened to look up comps for this, and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna keep this for myself. I'm definitely gonna sell it. And it was a vintage skillet, and the condition wasn't all that great either, but it still sold for $48 in 3 days. I paid $4 for it, making my profit $28. Now, the only issue that I ran into is shipping, of course, because it sold on eBay. And shipping on eBay is definitely a lot harder than it is shipping on Poshmark, especially with the heavier weight items. So I did have to pay a little bit more than what I charged for shipping. Next time, I will definitely pick this brand up. If it's in really good condition, I've seen this brand sell for upwards of $100. Definitely be on the lookout, even if they are just a little bit cracked or, you know, rusty. I feel like they will still sell, but always check the comps. So don't be scared of some heavyweight pants. Just make sure you charge enough shipping for them. Don't make the mistake that I did. All right, moving on to number 3 on my list, and I sold these Lululemon shorts that I found at the bins in Romeoville. And a little funny story about these shorts. So they had just rolled out a new bin, and you know, it can be very chaotic when they roll out a new bin because, you know, the bins people all gather around the bin and just like shuffle the clothes, and so clothes tend to fall on the floor. I happened to find these Lululemon speed up low rise shorts on the ground right next to the bin. I was jumping for joy because I don't find Lululemon all that often at the bins, and if I do, it's usually in terrible condition, but these ones obviously had a little bit of dust and stuff just from it being on the floor, but they were an easy cleanup, and they sold the same day for $36, and I paid roughly $1.50 for them, making my profit $30. I still love selling Lululemon. Now, not all Lululemon sells fast. I definitely have, and I'm currently sitting on some Lululemon, but people still love Lululemon and will buy it used. It really depends on the style, and if you can figure out what the style is. It's harder to identify shirts because they don't have the size dot, and usually with the size dot they can sometimes also put the style code. I prefer to sell bottoms because they do have the size dot usually, and it's easier to identify pants than it is shirts. Let me know down below if you still pick up Lululemon. I think it really depends on the style, but if I find it at the bins, I'm always gonna pick it up. Moving on to number 2 on my list are these Goldie jeans that I paid $3.85 for, and I actually sourced these on ThredUp. Once in a while I send a bunch of stuff into ThredUp and I get credit for it, and I find stuff on ThredUp to resell in my closet, and this was one of the items that I found. Or sometimes I use that credit to buy a bulk box, and I'll link that video above and down below of my most recent ThredUp unboxing. But these ones I found on ThredUp, actual ThredUp website, and what I really love about ThredUp now is they actually show the tag and the material tags. It makes it a lot easier to use Google Lens and to search for that exact style, and I was able to find the exact style before buying these, and they sold for $70 on Poshmark, and that made me a profit of $52 in less than a week. So definitely be a little more picky with a Goldie, and I definitely do not find this brand often, and in fact I've only found it twice in my reselling career. And the first time that I found it, it was actually a pair of skinny jeans that I found at the bins that are still listed in my closet. So style definitely matters when it comes to a Goldie. I believe the high-rise relax fits definitely sell better, and I've noticed people really like 100% cotton jeans over like the mixed cottons with the glass stain and spandex blends. I just feel like they hold up a lot better after you wash them multiple times. Right, moving on to our last and final brand that sells well, and this was actually another first time find for me, is Nook. I found this blouse at my local charity thrift store. I only paid $3 for it, and it sold on Poshmark for $45, making my profit $33, and it took 6 days to sell. And I recently got another Nook brand in my recent ThredUp unboxing, which I'll go ahead and link that above and down below as well. And that item sold really fast as well. So if you find this a brand out in the wild, I highly recommend picking it up. They make super like basic and preppy minimalist pieces, at least the ones that I've found and sold. People really like this brand. They have a loyal following. I've only sold their blouses and dresses so far. Definitely be on the lookout for this brand. So that is my top 10 fastest selling brands of 2025. My top 3 are definitely the Birkenstock, Frank and Eileen, and probably the Ariat boots, just because I can find those a little more often. These brands almost never sit for me. What brands are your fastest sellers? Go ahead, leave them in the comments down below. I try to post videos every Friday, so hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on my next video. That is gonna do it for me, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!